Welcome back to the Air Crown Crypto channel, coming at you from a faceless location over here in Dubai. Absolutely destroyed after that overnight flight, but you know what? There is actually plenty to talk about with the short and medium term timeframes having their resolution. Obviously, higher term timeframes trend does remain. The daily is continuing to print lower highs, which is very, very bullish, right? Anyways, I do want to remind myself to say that while I am over here in Dubai and away from all my usual utilities, it's going to be a little bit, or it's probably going to be a little bit delayed if you are trying to reach me via message or whatever it might be. Please do understand that. I'll do my best, obviously, to get back to anyone who hits me up, but during this time, it's going to be a little bit maybe rocky. So with that said, let's get right into the content of the day, starting off with the Crown Trading application. As always, you can find it in the link in the description below, and it is for the price of $0.00 or free. Anyways, we do see that global open interest is actually taking a leg down after Bitcoin's next lower high at that $39,000 region from, I guess it was last night. That is obviously concerning as trend does remain, but I was really looking for a more obvious signal for the openness to print above 13 billion plus printing a lower high on the daily. That would make it a lot more easy with calling it major downside continuation. Without that criteria met, I do just look at this as a range play rather than like a massively major new low in the making, unless if this next piece of criteria is met, which we will get on into the price action charts themselves soon enough. Anyways, on top of that, we do see that funding rates are on a daily basis ever so slightly negative. We do expect them to be negative in a general downtrend, but what's very maybe sombering, is the right word to put it, is on the hourly feed representing more updated data right here. You do see that it's actually not negative, it's ever so slightly positive, which is rather interesting as Bitcoin has just been absolutely brutal to the boolah in the last 2.5 months now. So with all of that in mind, I think we'll get on over into the charts and make this one a little bit on the quicker side. There doesn't really need to be anything too crazy done today. It's actually quite simple based off of yesterday's short-term, medium-term time frame ranges, what we were looking at right here. I was looking at on a daily closure, $38,000, or on an hourly and below closure, 37,600 on this trend line right here for a resolution to the downside, thus initiating targets back down somewhere around 35,500 and perhaps even as low as about 34,500 right here. However, as I did say, given the open interest reads, we don't really have like the major rocket fuel to kind of, get one of those major, massive, girthy red dildo parties to the downside. So I do hesitate to call any major downside continuation on top of this. I should denote, however, the daily does have several signals going on right here. Not only do we have yet another lower high at the daily 21, but that is accompanied by hidden bearish divergence right here, which I believe we called out yesterday as a potential, and upon validation of below $38,000 it was on a daily closure. And then also what's very interesting to me right here for the people who are using the Jewel or Jewel Light is that we looked at this signal right here as a corrective signal. And I want to explain this for a second because I was getting a few questions about this, and perhaps I could do a better job of explaining it. Anyways, the reason why I was calling this signal to the upside right here a corrective signal is because when you are looking at the Jewel, a momentum oscillator that is mediated by volatility, we need to be really combining it with the BBWP reads over here. And as you can see, BBWP was declining throughout this upside momentum phase, actually almost perfectly to the dot on that. And so when that goes against the overall, or when that is essentially going obtuse in the opposite direction of volatility, so volatility contracting with the Jewel Light showing any direction, in this case to the upside, that is usually going to be a corrective move. And we've actually seen several of these in this past rally right here back in January. Hey, stop that, no notifications, TradingView. Back here in December, and actually a few more times in November as well. So that declining volatility plus upside momentum on the Jewel Light does suggest that that was going to be a lower high. Now I was anticipating that it was going to come a little bit higher. However, that is why we do have, of course, validations and invalidations, and in this case the upside move was never validated. The same criteria that we've been having for about 2.5 to 3 weeks here was not, or it wasn't 3 weeks, about 1.5 to 2 weeks I believe it was never met with a full hour closure above $39,000, initiating targets up into 41 to maybe even as much as $43,000 for the short term. Instead, we get another lower high, and the trend does remain, and the trend does remain your friend perhaps as well. What's also a bit more sombering about this right here is that over here on our momentum charts, stochastic momentum will also be turning down today freshly with any sort of a closure below 36,228. So now you can see how the short-term time frame and medium-term time frame resolution can now lead into a higher-term time frame relative to that, the daily, with pointing towards some more downside. So if this does get confirmed upon closure tonight, at that point I would very likely be looking for at least 35,000/500 or so. Okay, stop with the damn notifications, trade. All right, I'll just allow it. Fuck off. But I do think that there would be a good threat of a move a little bit lower than that, perhaps below about $35,000. Here's, however, where I might diverge from where I think maybe a lot of people are looking at right now. I would not feel comfortable calling any major continuation to new lows just yet, for a few reasons. One of them being over here on the daily Bollinger Bands chart, the Trollinger Bands over here. We do see the bottom side Trollinger Band is starting to once again contract, and more importantly, it is coming a little bit above our last major wick low from the 24th of January last month. So I would be expecting any sort of movement of this reach right here at minimum to provide a nice bouncy bounce. That could be as low as 34,500 or so. And then I want to see where things kind of land after that. And now we have a very obvious structure for a nice potential breakout or breakdown leading into, I suppose, like the middle of February. It would be the same criteria for the upside as before, 38,000, or it's basically like 39,000 bucks. If you're on a daily, it's a little bit lower than that, about 38,800 or so. And at that point, yes, I would be looking for a pretty nice move up, somewhere around about 42 to 44 or so. But for right now, momentum and trend and, basically everything is down. So it's not very wise in my experience to be looking for an upside move in the short term, or sorry, on the daily time frame. On the short term time frames, however, do we have any sort of a different picture going on right here? Well, if we were, I would be expecting some sort of regular bullish divergence coming off these reads on the short term time frames. We don't see that right now. We do see 4-hour RSIs making new lows alongside trend, and hourly, I believe, is actually, I haven't even checked on an hourly. To be fair, got another drive of hidden bearish divergence right there. So man, it's like Bulas just cannot catch a break alongside of volatility expanding off the lows. So even the short-term time frame is about to turn down again here as well. So with that in mind, I do think that it's cautionary times yet again. I think there's also a bear Muna if you happen to believe in the good old moons. They definitely exist out there in the space, but well, I guess they're in a relationship with price action is still working, I suppose. Anyways, now I need to talk. I feel like I'm missing something here. Maybe our lower term time frame momentum, stochastic momentum is going to be showing something. Yeah, we do see 4-hour stochastic momentum coming way down here, 37,500, the magical number to beat. Obviously, that's more than $1,000 above where price action currently is right now. But kind of the picture that I'm trying to paint, or that I'm looking at right here, is that as Bitcoin does play out this next downside move based off the short term time frame range break, I do really hesitate to call a major move down to new lows. So that's what I was going to get onto. Where would I be wrong about that, and where would it become relevant to be looking for, I guess new lows on this run, very likely somewhere down around the macro cycle range lows. In this case, that's going to be about 29,000 to 31,000 bucks or so. Well, in that case, I'd be looking right here at about 34,500 below there on a medium, or sorry, not a medium, but a higher term time frame closure, a daily, maybe at minimum a 12-hour could do it in this case. I suppose I would be looking for, I'd be looking at that as a validation for a move back down around here. But realistically, I suspect that Bitcoin's going to do something like this, where perhaps it comes back around, and the hopium is that you pump back up around there and then validate above this region, and then, very likely moves its way up into the shallow $40,000 territory. The doomium is that you bounce somewhere right around here, and instead of taking out that critical region, you put in another lower high right here and then dump it to hell, which would be obviously quite devastating. As February, I do still think is a little more poised for perhaps a bounce a little bit later this month. But the question is, how far down do we get first on Bitcoin before initiating that bounce? And the bounce, again, there is no validations for any sort of a bounce. And we can actually even talk about, targets greater than $42,000. In fact, it'd be about 45 to perhaps even as much as $50,000 upon validation above this region right here. Again, that just below $39,000 region on a daily. So until we get something like that, still highly risky, I do suspect. And a little bit of patience is going to go a long way here, simply for the fact that, Bitcoin's been doing the same thing for about 2.5 months now, basically since early to mid-November. And, it seems to like these few week-long consolidations and then continuation, right? So until we get any sort of semblance of a reversal, I still look at this as only relevant for short-term time frame trades. If I am looking for upside trades for downside, well, I think that one kind of explains itself. Anyways, I think that's a good place to perhaps leave off on this video. A nice and short and sweet one. I'm curious to hear if you like this sort of style of video a little bit better in comparison to the more somewhat lengthy but more in-depth ones. This one will be a little bit more easy for me to follow up on while I'm over here in Dubai. And I do plan on doing some live streams, maybe even tomorrow, Friday, but it's going to be contingent upon the quality of the Wi-Fi here. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully all goes well and we see each other soon. If not, I want to wish you well once again. And with that said, take care and see you hopefully soon.